Yeah, welcome to the 6:30 p.m. Monday, August 21st, 2023 meeting of the Windsor Town Council. First thing on the agenda is the pledge of allegiance, please.
The flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comment period. Anyone that wants to speak on any subject. You have about 3 minutes or so at the podium. You must come to the podium, please, so there's no confusion about who's next. Is there anyone that wishes to do that? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Next item on the agenda is 149, consideration of a bid for purchase of heating fuel, propane, and gasoline. Somebody want to start us off?
So, as you folks know, we put out our heating oil, our propane, and our gasoline bid. We only received 1 bid, and so the options as I see them are 1 of 2 for the council. Accept the bid, but if you do that, I would encourage you to authorize the town manager to negotiate some of the terms of the contract, because terms that we received from Winthrop Fuel, there's some changes, adjustments that we would want to make. So that's option 1. And then option 2, if you're unhappy with the pricing for that, is we could put it out for bid, but we need to do that post haste, because we need to get the contracts.
Make a motion. I would like to move to have the town manager negotiate some of the terms and conditions of the contract from Winthrop Fuel for delivery of propane and heating oil for their next season.
There's a second by James. Okay, is there any discussion?
I honestly think we should put it back out for bid instead of negotiating, because my understanding is that there may have been not enough time for some of the people who wanted to bid on this contract. What say you, town manager?
So we did have it out for bid for 2 weeks, which actually is probably more time than the companies needed, because what they always do is they wait until the very last moment. They see what the fuel prices are that day, and they base their bid on whatever the prices are that day. And so, you know, the risk, there is a risk with rebidding it, and the risk is that the prices vary. So prices shot up in July, and then they came back down to earth a little bit over the last week or so. And so, you know, there is a potential for the price to actually go up.
Now, what's this price right here? How does that compare with other?
So you may recall, Linda, that we got a contract price from Winthrop Fuel previously. The price did not change from Winthrop Fuel. And, you know, when we compared it with what other communities were paying, it was higher than most. But, you know, we did go through a competitive bidding process, and it was the only bid that we did receive.
And how much higher?
And in some instances, it was quite a bit. I mean, I think we got responses from about 20 communities, and Winthrop Fuel was near the bottom.
The problem I think is, the problem that we're gonna run into is that time is running out. I mean, it's getting into almost time they're gonna start their deliveries, and you're starting to see some of the oil prices go up. I think the time to do this and do it competitively is June or July, early July, not end of August. I think end of August is a tough time to do it. One question I had, Anthony, you could maybe answer this. Diesel, where do we stand with diesel? Who does the negotiations with diesel? What is the price that we're paying for diesel? Any input on that?
So I do see that Matt Burnham, our Public Works Director, is online. He's probably in a better position to answer this than I am. But Matt, am I incorrect that we have, we've purchased fuel from Winthrop Fuel, a diesel fuel from Winthrop Fuel at whatever the market price is at that time? Is that accurate? Matt, you're muted.
Watching the game. I don't think he heard you.
Just to kind of dovetail on that
Is-
question that Roy asked, I'm sorry. The delivery method, I mean, it is driving up to Winthrop Fuel and filling up the trucks and buses and stuff.
That's correct. Matt's up there, I think it is on
We can get,
Hey, Matt, why don't you text me as to whether or not what I said was accurate?
with that, are we locked into the fuel buying diesel fuel from now? Are we?
No, not necessarily.
How much?
Now, the problem is we simply don't have tanks for diesel fuel.
No, but there's other options.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we could purchase it from, gas stations here locally.
Certain cars offer certain things. I'm just wondering, that's not a locked in price. That has no bearing on this heating oil contract.
That's correct.
Well,
I guess I'd still like to say, from that up there is, I understand, I think people did have a kind of an option to bid on this. The fuel did come back. I don't like all the terms in here, so that's why I kind of choose your option A. And I think the price is probably higher, but it's competitive, I guess, where things are rising now. And it kind of puts people on the list next year. Our process is gonna be way different. I'd like to do it differently next year, give me more time, but, I wasn't excited that the gallons, I don't understand why that part of the contract went from like 90 or 9,000 gallons to 10.5. Why are we buying 1,500 more gallons with the potential that it's gonna be sitting, and we're gonna wind up sitting on it until he sells it, we have to pay for the storage. Those are some of the terms I didn't care for.
That would definitely be a negotiating.
And I guess if we lose on that, that's not negotiation, because we have to put it back up. That's the.
And to that point, Jim, yeah, we could do it and give people, a week to bid leading up to the next meeting and do that.
I kind of agree with you.
So if we negotiate this, if we negotiate this, does the council have to accept it if the terms are unacceptable when it's done negotiating?
No, I think that that's the whole point of negotiating.
So I don't have a problem with that.
If we
We
can't
can
get a
negotiate,
negotiation, we go back to bid.
right?
I think there are a few key things, one of the things is the gallons. The other part is the overage, what happens with the overage? If we don't use all the gallons, it's hybrided, we pay for the gallons and then we pay for storage until the gallons get sold, and I don't think that's fair. If you go on look at other contracts such as
no, we don't.
Fielding's a perfect example. Their contract is online. They give you the option to pay for the oil at the contracted price and use it later on.
Right.
Which I think would be more fair. Or just reduce the number of gallons that were
Yeah, we can
contracted.
reduce the number of gallons we contract.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we do that?
I know you've got your points as far as you're looking at this contract, everyone's set up. They wanted us to monitor the tank levels. And for me, why don't you just come once a month?
So
Right.
Just come in and top them off, don't put it on, the onus on
Automatic
us to make sure that, I think it's, I think they're fair, they're a local company, they're a family business, they've been around forever, we've used them, I don't think it's gonna be that hard to have some discussion over this stuff, but just come around, you're in the truck, you make the delivery, come the third week of every month and just top us off, that way we know we have the fuel in the tanks.
So you're hitting all my negotiating points.
I'm trying.
All right,
Great minds think alike. I cannot explain this.
all
So
right.
could the original motion be repeated, please?
Yes.
If you lost it.
I would like to make a motion to accept Winthrop Fuel as a purveyor of heating oil and diesel fuel, propane, under the current contract to be negotiated with the town manager.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Record show, let the record show all in favor. Okay, item 150, presentation by Eagles Wings Eat. You're on.
Oh, right over here.
My name is Deborah York. I'm the founder and director of An Angel's Wing. First, I'd like to apologize. I spent the weekend at the balloon festival. We had a booth there and I spent 15 hours a day. So I'm tired and I almost forgot the meeting. Thankfully, I had a reminder on my voicemail. I did have a beautiful presentation for you, but I forgot it. I was already on my way to Winthrop when I got the voicemail. So you're stuck with this. Who we are, we were founded in 2017. Josh is co-founder, he's my the youngest son. An Angel's Wing was founded because my oldest son needed treatment, and I spent days and hours trying to find an affordable treatment. We owned a family business, we had no insurance, and I couldn't find any. He ended up using opiates, and at that point we lost the opportunity to help him. Although right now he's 4 months in recovery in Florida. Because of the lack of treatment available in the state of Maine, we decided to try Goodwill's model of thrift stores to fund rehabilitation. So we founded in 2017, in 2018 we opened our first thrift store, and since then, we've helped hundreds of people in finding detox, rehabilitation, recovery homes, counseling, IOP, whatever it is they need. So we take phone calls and assist parents and loved ones and people searching for recovery. That's one part of our organization. We do give back. We take in community donations at our Lewis thrift store, and local organizations refer people to us, and we help them with clothing, household, kitchen, job hunting, attire, that type of thing. Have now opened 3 recovery homes, and that's why we're here. We have 2 in Winthrop, Maine. They are MARS certified, level 3, which means that the treatment is required. They sign up for counseling, IOP. We help them get secure a doctor, a dentist, an eye doctor if they need that. Any of their needs, we will help them to secure it. And so it's about, I'm tired, you have to forgive me. It's about the whole person, whatever their needs are to help them heal.
Can you say what IOP stands for?
Intensive outpatient therapy. Do have a cheat sheet. Corey's home is a 10-bed women's home, and some of our women are here tonight, thankfully. And then we have a 5-bed or a 4-bed men's home just up the road, and they're both on Turkey Lane. We have a co-ed facility in Lewiston. It's more of a phase down. So the 2 homes in Winthrop are structured. They come in, they aren't allowed basically any freedom for the first 30 days. They have to give up their car keys. They are required to sign up for treatment, other treatment options, whatever that individual needs. And from there, I lost my train of thought. I really am tired. I'm sorry, guys. So they've got their treatment, then they have to attend 5 meetings a week, whether it's AA, NA, that type of thing. And then they can phase into phase 2. It takes about 30 days, depending on if they're coming right off the street, because we do have a few that came from being homeless and some that have come from Crossroads or Liberty Bay, or depending on the individual situation, that going into phase two might only take a couple weeks. And then once in phase two, they have to either volunteer or work 20 hours a week. And at that point, they have the opportunity to go up to phase three. Phase three, they're basically working full-time, hopefully, or in school full-time. We do help them get signed up for college if that's what they want, or their GED. We have the career center coming once a month. Twice a month. They come in and talk to everybody in the house. And during phase three, we help them transition to a point where they can get their own place to live and move out back into the community in a healthy way. Or they can phase down to our Lewiston house, because that's a phase three house, and go to work. Does anybody have any questions?
You still have a booth at the end?
We do. We appreciate it.
Jim has a question, I believe.
Yeah, with your home here in winter, the first 30 days, if they're not out home, or how they get from place to place, they're required to stay there?
They have to be with management or a phase three senior resident.
Okay.
In some cases, phase two, as long as they're on the right path.
So, so after that certain restriction period of 30 days, and they're in the community, and they're getting jobs, or
Volunteering or,
yeah.
yes.
You guys transport them back and forth different places? or how?
If we have to, right now, we're fortunate that several of the senior residents now have vehicles and license, and that's another thing we work on to help them accomplish.
So get money to my day.
Yeah, we want, when they phase out of our program, we want them ready to start a healthy lifestyle.
No, understood.
Shannon?
Yeah, so you said that they attend meetings 5 days a week. Is that held right there at those homes?
No, we do have some meetings that we have a house meeting for sure, and then we have some people that will come in and host meetings, but most of them are out in the community.
Okay, and then do you have staff that help them acquire the resources to volunteer or find work?
Right now, we're a little shy on funds and staffing. You're looking at the admin team. But we have a house manager in both houses, so we have 2 house managers that work with everybody, and I myself come in. We set them up with case management if they need it, or they have to get sponsors. There's a lot of requirements in the first 30 days.
Do they participate in the housing subsidy services program?
Yes, we help them sign up during the first week with Section 8 and BRAD. I'm also on the committee for the Lewiston Landlord Liaison Project, where they're transitioning homeless people into apartments, and also people coming from recovery homes.
Okay, I'm gonna, in this particular case, decide to ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to ask a question or make a very brief comment. Please come to the podium.
We'll take the mic.
So.
Yeah, we'll take the mic.
So for those of you who don't know, this lady is Linda Filer. She works for us and is our general assistance administrator.
I wanted to hear more about the treatment plans. Where, did they do them in-house or did they do them away?
We allow them the opportunity to make the choices for themselves. We refer people to Blue, to Avalon Counseling, Augusta General. Those are the 2 that we recommend. However, they can go wherever they like. We have one that goes to Liberty Bay via Zoom, so it's really individualized.
So all the treatment plans are done off-site pretty much, except for it's.
Right, they do Zoom in and out, and then we have. It's
On the housing, tell me more about that. When Shannon mentioned you sign them up for Section 8 and other programs.
Right.
What is that?
Section 8 and BRAP are state run, and once you get signed up, of course, there's a waiting list, but eventually they will help pay your rent and get you into the list.
I've had to talk with them because I hear Section 8, tons of people that come in and they're on like a 3-year waiting list.
There's no.
Yes, we actually have, 2 people that have Section 8 that came into the house. And I have one individual that he got his after about a year and a half.
Thank you, Linda. Anthony,
Ms. York, I'm interested in your business model, because we know that general assistance is one of your revenue streams, because you have a lot of clients who approach the town about providing general assistance. Mainly, I think, to help pay for their housing costs while they're in your program. What are your other revenue streams?
We're signed up for the HSSP, and that's through the MAR, it's actually through the
Okay,
state.
you're gonna have to talk in a non-acronym for us, please.
I can't tonight. It's a program through the state, but it's offered for MAR certified homes, which we are. And they will pay, for 2 people for 2 months per house. That's one. We have signed up through MAR to get a scholarship, a $500 scholarship that we can utilize for people coming in. We just signed up for that. I'm hoping the opioid funds that are coming in, that we can, the idea is the first 90 days to let people focus on their treatment and focus on themselves and self-care so they can get well. So that's our hope. But until there's money coming in, we can't do that.
So did I hear you correctly? The state program that you're talking about that provides some funding, that's for 2 people in each of your homes, but only for 2 months?
Right, after that, those 2 months, then if we have 2 new people come in, we can sign them up for the scholarship if they need it.
And how many people are in each of your homes?
10 in the women's, 4 in the men's, and then in Lewiston, there's 12.
And so is there always 10 and 4 in homes?
So far,
And is that your max capacity for
yes,
those homes?
yes. We're hoping to open up a family home to allow, for parents that are trying to reunify with children to get them in a state custody eventually. And I'd love to open it in Winthrop because it's beautiful here and it's healing, but it may not be.
So, the people who are in your homes, are they typically from this area, from all over the state, from out of state?
They're from, primarily Maine. And we have one woman that transitioned to us from Liberty Bay in Portland, but her home was Massachusetts. We have one, she's not here right now, but she's from Winthrop, so they come from everywhere. The state of Maine. Typically, people don't like to get treatment in their hometown because it's too easy to go back out and use.
And so, indulge me here, just one last question. Do you anticipate that the number of people that you are serving here will grow? I mean, so 10 and 4, so you're serving 14 people at any given time.
Right.
Do you anticipate that will get larger than 14? And there's a reason why I'm asking these
No,
questions. And the reason is that because, as you might imagine, your program relies pretty heavily on the town's general assistance.
Right.
You have to plan and budget for that to some extent.
So our house is not ever gonna have more rooms. So those 2 houses will always be 14. A lot of people that come in don't necessarily need general assistance, some do. So it's hard to say on any given 90+ days where we're gonna be at, but.
And so, but it sounds like though you don't anticipate opening any more homes, at least here in Winthrop, is that fair to say?
I do wanna open one more, maybe 2, and, no decision has been made to where. I am looking at a house in Auburn. I'd love to open with you because it's beautiful and it's healing, it really is. I had one gentleman that was ready to go back out and use, he got angry. He took off down Turkey Lane, and if you're not familiar with Turkey Lane, it can be a long road when you're, in the early recovery, searching drugs, and he ended up turning around and coming back. Just took care of all after that. So that's one of the reasons, you know, it's just that the environment in Winthrop is so quiet and peaceful. And I don't see the whole thing.
In addition to using public assistance for people living there, you said there were other funds. Do some of these people have private insurance that covers this?
We're not state licensed, so we can't accept insurance.
Do you anticipate that you'll be able to do that in the future?
It's our hope and it's our goal, but we have to install sprinkler systems, and if you're not familiar with how expensive those are.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah, so that's our hope and goal.
Just look at the pipe behind you.
Oh, you know. So we've offered our own scholarships to a few individuals as well. I mean, with the opioid funds, there's a lot of talk that they're going to fund recovery homes, so keep your fingers crossed and prayers going for us.
Well, the only question prayers are nice, but the only question I would have is that if you are not currently able to accept insurance because of the sprinkler systems, what makes you think that the state will bring forth opioid funds for you in the future when those monies do come in?
They've already brought the money through Maine State Housing for the HSSP. Strictly from our certified homes. They won't give that money to licensed homes because they can bill insurance.
So does that mean that if you get state funds, so state funds would take the place of general assistance?
That's what I'm hoping.
Okay, are there any more questions from the council?
I just wanna say, I appreciate very much what you guys are doing, even though I'm grilling you with questions.
No, I totally understand.
Because we lost at least that many people in the house in this community from drug overdose, and the work is very, very important.
My question to you would be, where can we help? Where can we help the town? I mean, where can we distribute our brochures? Because all a mom has to do if they're, 18-year-old or 21-year-old is ready for help, is call us and we'll help find a spot. We've sent people all over the state and out of state for treatment. We've partnered with organizations so we can either make it affordable, free, or if they don't have insurance. Because if you're not aware, Maine doesn't have a lot of treatment options. And when they're ready, it's that moment that they need help. You gotta have that phone call.
You're straight by the iron spot.
Where can we drop those brochures off, and we'll be sure to do it?
By way of at least partially answering your question, you can get in touch with the Lions and Rotary and the Legion downtown.
Okay,
There's a Rotary over there.
And also Maine General Health, we have a hospital base here in town.
oh, you do?
Yeah, Maine General's right in the direction, that way.
I think I've seen it.
Yeah, and so you could drop some off down there because they see people.
Very true.
It's a health condition, so.
So before I offer this, I need to ask you a clarifying question. So you are a registered 501c3?
We are.
Okay, so I might suggest,
Okay, great to know.
Okay, PJ? I'm sorry, PJ. So would you bring the mic over to PJ, please?
Yeah, we also have a big kiosk downtown. You can put the flyers up there with push pins.
Oh, great. Well, definitely.
Thank you.
We'd like to pass that Narcan as well, if that's okay.
I probably would suggest getting in touch with Paul early. We would help you with that.
Okay.
All right, so if there are no more questions from either audience.
I'll be really quick.
I'm gonna know, that's my next step, and no more questions from either the board or the audience, citizens, and I would ask if you have any more presentation.
Oh, just a real quick one. You had a question about our funding and resources. We started out
we started our first thrift store. And that our goal is to raise funds through our thrift store to create funding for, our houses. So when someone comes in, we have a little bit of funds to help them get a move for the first few days, first few months, as we can. So we also opened another store in the Auburn Mall. Malls are not doing phenomenal. So we make a little bit of money there, but a few of our other things as a fundraising director, we do community events, Balloon Festival, Liberty Festival, craft fairs, things like that. We also have a small bakery inside our Lewiston store. So we do exterior events, whether it's parties, birthday parties, things like that. So those are some of the things that we've been working on, trying to continue to grow, so that at some point we don't have to rely on any funding, so that if somebody needs help, they come right in, don't worry about it. Stay for the year, we've got you covered. Because my end goal, and is slightly shared with a lot of other people, is to create a kids camp and a child's. A lot of children go through a recovery just like their parents. You know, they don't get to do a lot of things that they'd like to, or to a camp, go fishing, kayaking, things like that. So at some point, before I kick the bucket, I'd like to see, us build a nice, beautiful camp on a lake somewhere in Maine, maybe up north somewhere, and have child reunification while the parents are going through recovery, because the kids need to learn too on what's going on. And we don't have anything like that in Maine. I think that would be very beneficial to the future of kids. There's a lot of other stuff here, but I just want to keep it short and sweet. It's just answers me questions.
Thank you very much.
Did you have one young lady here from our house? Speak on her experience.
Just set the mic on the podium. Thank you very much. Okay, if we're finished with that one, the agenda's a little off here. I suggest we go to 151.5. We're looking for a motion to move to approve carrying forward $220,049 from FY23 administrative service budget to be used to pay the town hall levy.
So would y'all like me to provide?
Thank you, everyone.
Background? So, as you folks know, a parking lot's being paved down there at the athletic complex. And so McGee Construction approached us about potentially paving Town Hall Lane while they're there, because it makes it more cost effective and more efficient for them, because they've already got the men, the crews, the materials, the equipment all staged there already. And that is part of the cost of a paving project. And at the time, Matt and I said, oh yeah, we'd really love to do that, but we need to plan for a project like this because it's a lot of money. And they said, well, what if we did the work and we held the invoice for a year? And while that sounds really appealing to us, the auditor would look on that very grimly, because you were supposed to pay for goods and services in the year in which they are rendered.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but Vernice came up with an idea, and that is that we had about $220,000, which is the amount that McGee is proposing to spend at this point on this project, that we did not spend from the administrative services budget this past year. And so if we wanted to go ahead and do this project, and I do think it would probably represent a cost savings to us, we could carry forward those funds in order to pay for the project. And I think that's, if we're wanting to do that at this time, I think that's probably right.
Okay, Linda first.
How did we not spend $220,000? I guess that's my first question. And second question is, I wasn't aware, we just finished the budget in June. Why weren't we aware of this? I'm okay doing this when they have, you know, folks on hand, but again, where did this $20,000 all of a sudden arise from?
So you may recall that I've spoken in previous meetings that, we're gonna end the year in the black, about $150 million. And so $400,000 of that comes on the expense side. So we did not expend $400,000 that was budgeted. And then the rest is represented by, revenues that we collected above what we budgeted. And so that's where the $200,000 comes from. I agree with you, Linda. I mean, optimally, we need to do a better job of coordinating with others for these sort of opportunities. And just a similar example is when we are looking to pave a road, we need to work with the utilities district, for instance, to make sure that they're not planning on replacing a utility line underneath that road, you know, in the coming years. And so I think had we been on top of our game, we probably would have worked with the athletic, whatever the committee is that's overseeing the athletic complex, to say, hey, you're gonna be paving a parking lot. That seems like a prime opportunity to also do some road paving down there as well.
No, I get that, but you know, we just went through this budget and we just increased taxes here. And I must have missed the meeting that there's talk of the $700,000 that now we have all of a sudden. That, I mean, to me, I don't understand why we raise taxes. We have a lot of money coming in. And that's where I'm, you know, if we have that kind of an overage, that to me is unacceptable to put that on the taxpayers like we did. I just don't see it. And I get it, but you know what? Something's not, either people aren't budgeting properly if we have that kind of an overage, or something's, you know, I guess I don't understand it, quite frankly.
Okay, there, I don't remember if it was Jim, but I definitely, so, all right.
Are we talking about overages?
Jim,
Well, I thought
Shannon.
Anthony's talking about an overage.
Okay,
right
here
yet.
we go.
That's on the-
Not
Jim?
right yet, but we're looking at it.
Roy, Shannon, in that order, please.
You wanna answer Linda first, or?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Oh, well, Anthony.
Linda, I think one of the advantages of doing this is those surplus funds that we do have, it makes a good public use of those funds that we receive and didn't spend. And whenever you do have surplus funds, I think it's really imperative that you find ways to put those to good public use. And the best way to do that is with one-time capital projects and costs. Because if you spent those money on ongoing operational costs, then you're gonna see a reduction in your mill rate for 1 year. But the next year, when you don't have those surplus funds, then the mill rate jumps up. And so this year, we were fortunate in that we had $7 million of value that were added to the property tax rolls. And so that mitigated the increase. And so the increase that we saw this year was 4% in the mill rate.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Jim is next.
So I kind of get on with Linda. I mean, we had a surplus last year. We got a surplus this year. I mean, I guess, and I kind of charge you with this, Anthony, is you moving forward, you know, hopefully we can kind of grasp, reel that in, and how we're spending our money, right? And then we budget it a little bit better. I mean, I was part of this first budget process of mine, and I know I asked a ton of questions. Maybe there was a reason I should have been asking more questions, but clearly we want to kind of clamp that down. So we kind of come out a little more even and not so high-ended or down in the red, right? So that moving forward, I get that. So you're saying that money, it does come from our surplus currently, that total surplus? The two twenty?
And I wanna be clear about the terminology.
Sure.
So we're not talking
Yeah.
about drawing from the undesignated fund.
Right, it's.
So it's unspent monies
Right.
from
right,
the fiscal
right, right, right.
twenty-three
Yep.
budget.
And money that, more
Right.
revenue that we realize.
Yeah, I mean, I know, we said we kind of hit them a little lower at 4%, and I can appreciate that, but where we were at 11 last year or 12, it kind of made us bloom bigger than most other towns in our area in the last 2 years. I mean, some people went up 7 or 8%, but when we look over 2 years, we took a pretty good hit for our townspeople. So I just want to keep mindful that we're spending correctly. And I'm not against this project either, but when I ask about this project, we're spending, and for me, it's a lot of money, because that's not a very big stretch of road. But are we getting just the road? Are we getting the parking lot that's down in front of the Y, in front of the tennis courts? Are we getting the parking lot in front of the police station? Are they gonna do
the whole thing?
Yeah, is that whole lot down there? Because there's if they're gonna just do one stretch, seems pretty foolish when they're down there with the rigs.
So I'll say this, it's from,
Main Street.
Highland Avenue all the way down to Main Street.
But is it the parking lot in by the
And
tennis courts, in by the Y building?
to be honest with you, I don't know that. I didn't think to ask
We need to
that
find
question.
that out, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So is that,
I-
to Jamie's point, to Jamie's point, is that more money, or are we getting the best bang for our buck with the fact that we already?
I apologize for my crappy internet.
It's all good.
Did you hear Linda's question?
No, I did not. I'm sorry.
I said, are we getting the best bang for our buck? Because if it seems like it's a small amount of road, like Jamie said, for the amount of money that we're spending.
I would say it is over and above what we
So let me try to answer that, Linda. So this is,
generally do for.
You're going out, Matt.
yes. So let me try to answer this, Matt.
I'm sorry, I've got a very poor connection. It
Oh.
is over and above, this scope of work is over and above what we would normally do for normal town road maintenance.
So this project would represent a rebuild of the road. I mean, you're talking about
That's
excavation.
correct, or at least partially.
Yeah,
It's only a rebuild to the corner of the building. It is the way that it's bid out. They're only rebuilding the road from Highland Avenue down to the corner of
Yes.
this building.
yeah.
It would.
If I'm correct, Matt, from the corner of the building here, all the way to Main Street, is not a rebuild, correct?
That's correct. You're right, Roy.
And-
That's
and
right.
so, and I think that just speaks, the reason they're proposing rebuilding that just speaks to how bad the road is down there near the playing fields.
Yeah, but that's not getting rebuilt. That, near the playing fields is.
It's just getting, well, I mean, from Highland Avenue down to.
Just from Highland Avenue.
That's right.
Down to
Yes.
the new parking lot.
Yes, and so, I'll have to tell you, my very first experience in Winthrop, when I was preparing to interview for this job. I came here on a Saturday morning and I looked through all the windows of the town office just to see what I could see. And then I got in my car and I drove around the school down there and I thought, holy God, this is the worst road I've ever been on. And I think that someone sort of, I think only partially tongue in cheek said, well, it keeps people from speeding down there, or where, kids are playing and all. But Andy raised a good point when I mentioned this project to him, and that, hopefully this athletic complex is going to draw a whole lot of people to Winthrop, and, that road is not necessarily the best first impression that we can make on folks.
I want one last one of that. Look at that whole piece of the road, because when I
I have to say Jim was next and he has been,
with that section of the road, that's not school just from Highland down to the parking lot? That's not school responsibility? I thought that would have been part of that parking lot.
No, that's town road all the way from Main Street to Highland Avenue.
All right, so it's stretched through there, so are we gonna, and with this new complex coming in place, maybe this is the wrong people to ask, but I'm sure somebody's gonna have the answer. Because back in the day, way back in the day, back when you were here, Mike, we had a gate that didn't allow full traffic to go down all the way down through, Matt, and I thought somewhere in that proposal, we were gonna not have allowed full traffic to go all the way down through. You remember that, Matt?
I don't recall it.
It was always gated right here.
I do not remember that.
You remember that, Matt? They had the gate there.
It was gated where, Jim?
We were in high school, Matt, it was gated. You couldn't drive all the way around. But I thought they were gonna close that off just because of the kids and the fields and the complex. They were gonna try to keep the traffic down so you wouldn't be able to come all the way up through. That only changed probably in the last 10 years. 10 years. But, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, it's,
I don't recall that, Jim.
I don't think the gate's been, if it's been there, it hasn't been closed for at least probably close to 20 years.
yeah, but it was back when I was in school, it was gated, and it just cuts down on the traffic and it just, you know, do we need to do a complete rebuild on it? We're not gonna have full traffic going all the way through. That's just my question.
This is scheduled to be an overlay map,
Part of it is,
and the new work, I mean, the 220,000. And then, what's the chance of overlaying the police parking lot and the Y parking lot as they go through?
indeed, part of it from Highland Avenue schedule is they're looking at a rebuild.
Right, but from the end of the original scope of work, coming out to Main Street, that's an overlay.
I apologize for this horrible.
It's all right, they're offering us that work for $220,000 and change.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So my question is, have we compared that, we're having all states paving, do the rest of the paving in the town, correct?
Yeah.
We have an overlay from the corner of the building up here to Main Street. Have we compared price per foot with
Allstate's gonna do it.
Allstate? What's that?
They're gonna do it anyway. He's gonna contract it out with Allstate.
But
So
have
then
have we
there's
priced it
there's
directly?
a middleman situation
Right,
there, so why don't we just, why don't we
Have we
just,
looked at the pricing, price per foot of linear foot of road,
Per ton.
surfacing or per ton?
I think we need to do
It
that.
ought to be similar, I would think.
Last one we had was
I-
62.50 per ton.
How much was it, Shannon?
So from the Allstate, the last proposal that we received for the town was $662.50 per ton.
652,
662.50.
I don't think there's any tonnage, that, the McGee estimate's all done in a lump sum, there's no detail like that. correct?
I'm just saying that's normally how it's priced.
What's
Not
that?
so much a ton and a certain thickness stuff, it's a certain.
Yeah, I'd have to know more about this to okay it,
I like
I
the idea when they're there.
huh?
It makes sense that they're there. I just don't think it's the best price.
Well,
I just think
Well, then
we need
we
to
go
do
back and
due
negotiate
diligence and-
the one thing I'd like to caution everyone about is, Shannon and I had a really great meeting with, Joel the other day. And, Joel let us know that, Stevie has gone over and above, okay? And it would be a shame for us to, if it turns out to be the case, it would be a shame for us to not give him that work for the sake of $1 or $2 a ton, whatever it comes to.
Oh, I agree.
Oh, I know too.
I agree wholeheartedly, but I think it would be in our best interest to do our due diligence and just compare.
Always.
So, you know, it's like, it's like we're talking about putting a purchasing policy in place and we're not following any direction that we're gonna be moving in with the purchasing policy.
Roy, you're absolutely right, that, under the purchasing policy, this would not be happening. But, you know, we saw it as an opportunity to, you know, get a project done, hopefully it'll be a little bit more cost effective because everything stays there, but you're right. And to be fair, we have not compared sort of what the
I just
tonnage.
think we just need
the
to take a
tonnage
quick
is-
look at it and see where we
Yeah, I
stand.
think so too.
If it's more, you know, if it's double the money,
Right.
then you know.
Yeah, we gotta do our. due
I just wanna
If
point
it's
out,
dollars or cents per ton
It's
difference,
taxpayer dollars, I mean.
fair is fair.
you know, I just wanna point out though, it's not
He's
just
done a
about
great job.
the tonnage, it's, for the $220,000 that we're looking at is broken down into a rebuild of the road from Highland Avenue to the corner of the school at $134,800. The shim and overlay of the remainder to Main Street is $91,370, and I don't see a problem with either one of those figures, given the cost of the tonnage of asphalt right now, plus all the labor, the
Do you
excavation.
know a lot, are you a professional, Elizabeth, about the
I've
cost
done my
of,
own estimates, but yeah,
you've got your own estimates for paving or for road paving?
for my own property I have, and I know how expensive.
I just think we ought to do a due diligence to check.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if it's something I think that we should authorize the town manager to do due diligence here and check and see if we can't renegotiate if it's pretty
We
far
can
off.
do a quick
What's
check.
our time
So
situation?
what I'm hearing you folks say is from McGee, what we need from them is what's the cost per ton of
They're figuring it in.
the actual,
And I'd like to know if they're gonna.
Shannon,
do the whole
next,
thing.
please.
if they're gonna do what?
If they're gonna do the whole thing, if they're gonna go
Yeah.
down with skim coat, and mine's with skim coat, what's in front of the old MDNY in the little parking lot there.
Yeah, that should be.
Parking lot, along the school.
Well, the police station, I meant, behind the police station.
Right away to it, but Shannon does have a comment to make.
I think my only other question that I didn't ask Joel in our meeting was, how much more construction do they have to do? And I know that Steve McGee gave us this quote to sit there and because they already have the trucks and things there in place to
Right.
save money to do it now. But if we,
That's a good question.
if we do have a lot more trucks going in and out, how will that impact the roads between now and after when they complete?
So let me make sure I understand your question.
Are they gonna destroy the roads after they rebuild them?
Are the roads gonna be done last, or are they gonna be done first?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well,
I
they're
got
gonna
it.
save on cost by having the equipment here currently,
I got you.
but if they have it done now,
Yeah.
how much more construction
Okay.
and stuff to do?
They still have, quite a bit more to do down at the fields, and I don't know that they're gonna get it all done this fall, are they?
Well, the fields be done.
The field will be done, but there's still a lot
Yeah,
more
that's a
to
good
do
point.
for the
We
ground.
can't let them go back and, they can't be going back and forth. on that.
Joe was sure that the rings would be done, and talk some other things.
Yeah, can you ask them that?
So,
Do
well,
we
they
have
have,
time to deal with this at the next meeting in 2 weeks?
That's really gonna be up to McGee. You know, how long they want to sort of hold the price, so. Initially, I was told they would like to have, an answer tomorrow, but I will call them tomorrow and we'll talk it through.
Lean on Jeff.
Well, can you send us out the information that you have and
Absolutely.
send out an email so we can look at it?
I'd like to have it done.
I would be okay with it, providing that, it checks out.
And would it be okay if Anthony sends that out and information and then he checks with us to get our opinions back? I'm okay with that.
Me too. I'd like to have.
I don't think the company is foolish enough to pave and then drive wheelers over his new work, so I think we can.
Well, we
we
need
can
to
be
confirm
assured.
They're
that.
gonna pave the road up here, I would assume, before
I-
they.
Yeah, fool
He's having
that.
trouble with that.
Try it again, Matt.
I can measure that tomorrow and tell you with a proposed thickness and width, how many tons that will take. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, so Matt and I'll work together
And then
tomorrow.
we can just even do it. We can just do a quick calculation and just see where we stand.
Down. I think everybody here.
See what it-
If it's close,
Yeah, if it's
Thumbs up
close, I don't
for
have a problem with it.
So are we tabling?
I
Yeah,
think,
Chair-
no, but
Chair-
I think what we need to do is
see
give,
where it comes out to per ton.
what? All right, I think what we need to do is, I make a motion that we authorize the town manager
Use his discretion.
to use his discretion, find out the specifics on the proposal and what it will cost. Circulate that to the town, officials and have us take a look at that and report back what we feel we would like to do.
Second.
And then he can
And also include paving the.
paving the, yeah, with respect to paving. Yeah.
No sense driving.
Okay, so,
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
All right, are all in favor? Let the record show, all in favor. It's so much easier to count votes when everybody's in favor. Okay, 52. Put your glasses on.
So I just want to make sure that I'm seeking the right information, Mark. So we're going to be looking at what the cost per ton is of the asphalt and compare that to whatever Allstate,
Yeah, just a
that we
quick
contract
calculation.
with Allstate.
Right.
And then we're gonna make sure that they're not rebuilding a road and then driving heavy truck traffic over.
Yeah.
it.
right,
And then we're gonna see what the cost might be of also paving over the YMCA building and the PD parking lots.
Yeah.
and we also need to
Right.
know how far this is gonna go, the original quote that they gave us, right?
Yeah.
Correct, or we know that.
So we know
that.
from Highland down.
We
to-
know now.
down
It's
to-
the whole road. It's the whole road.
Yeah, once, you know.
It's just broken up into two places.
Yeah, 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 okay.
Two different.
The only thing
ramp up
to be-
here that's blown
To
out.
be aware of is that if we don't make the decision to build a new police station, then there's gonna be significant work on the front of the old police station. So we might lose a lot of that new paving. And there's also a consideration if we're gonna pave that, I know it gets complicated. If we're gonna pave that road, one of the problems we're gonna have is we're gonna have to grade to run the water away from the side of the police station. Because we also have water intrusion there.
We need to work on grading.
All right,
All right,
You saw it.
152, lo and behold, discussion of the police station.
So, we had a motion and a second, we didn't have a vote.
We did.
we did have,
We did.
Okay, but I didn't call hearing the vote, so.
You agree?
Okay, ready,
Seven.
I'm always waving my hand.
Andy counted to 7, remember?
Yeah,
Didn't that take too long?
okay. all
I
right,
didn't even
so-
run out of fingers.
So.
All right, 152, discussion of the police station. I think, maybe Bruce wants to hit this one up.
Sure, I don't mind. After we all went over there and took a look at Little Shop of Horrors over there, you look at throwing good money away and, you know, you're looking at some major repairs for the police station. I mean, you know, the flooding that comes in the front door, the way the building's sinking, the facades on the side. There is town-owned land that's up by the ambulance station. It would be a wonderful spot, to put a new PD and build it to specification. I'd like to just explore that and come up with some figures possibly of what it would take to do that. Don't all raise your hand at once.
I'll raise my own hand, how's that? I agree that we should form it. I agree that we should form an exploratory committee. To look at this before we invest significant money in the old police station.
Yeah, so, I mean, we just spent $1 million on that. We just spent $1 million on that. How is it possible that this is not okay right now? I guess I'm at a loss for words on that one. I'm at a big loss for words, so I need to understand why we spent $1 million on this. And why it's not up to par right now. It wasn't that long ago.
I wasn't on council when it was decided to
When was
rehabilitate
that?
the building. So I have to depend on your expertise on that question because you were active in the town council.
Well, I think the simple
Yeah.
answer is that whoever designed the rebuild and whoever authorized the rebuild failed to take into consideration the condition of the foundation.
I would have thought that they would have.
Yeah, well, me too.
You were with me, you were there.
Yeah, but
All
I
that
would have
stuff
thought,
coming up.
we were
Okay.
told that it was okay.
By golly, I'm losing control of the meeting. I think Jim's
So,
next.
so my question, and I don't mind exploring anything, again, I think a lot of things should be looked at and discussed. You know, I know a fair amount about construction. But I need to have a question answered. Is that a historical building you have down there?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we don't have the police station there, what will go there? Now, we're gonna still maintain it, or still pay to maintain it, right? So sometimes I'm thinking, there's some pretty sharp guys out there that can lay down a decent foundation, fix some things, dig around it and do different things. So maybe I hold back on paving around the parking lot around it before we start digging again. But if that's something that needs to be done, we should definitely get a quote on it and fix it right. You know what I mean? I think it's in a good location. I've always liked where the police station is. It's served us well. I mean, I think we've got a lot of new municipality buildings in this town. And they look great, but I really don't think I'm in favor of building another new one, which I know would probably be another cost. And I'm still gonna be winding up paying for that building down there, because I know the historical society will throw a fit if we just let it go empty and just do nothing. So I know we didn't put a lot of money into it. I wasn't on the council either. But I think it'd be worth making sure it had its repairs done correctly. And if that's where we're gonna put some money, and I appreciate your sentiments on it, Bruce, but I think it should be looked at as well. You look at both options. I mean, A is building a new building, B is repairing what we have. Because I think it does fit. It's in the middle of town. It's good exposure.
Right next to the school.
Yeah, right next to the schools. I like where it is. I mean, they can react very good. It's near the tennis courts, and there's, you know, we're all youth at one time. We're all kind of miscreants and doing up something not, but I think it tamps down a lot of that stuff, but I like where it is.
We must have had a study done back when they did that building, and I wanna see that and what they said about, I'm sure they looked at the foundation, I'm sure they looked at everything. And I'd like to see what was discovered.
Well, they showed us where they built the river through it. You know, in the basement, that was their solution.
I wanna see what
Was not the
what was
greatest.
actually,
Agree?
whatever, I'd like to see what they said about that, because I can't imagine,
Yeah.
well, again, I'd like to see, I'm sure that they did a feasibility study and I'd like to see it. Can you please look that up and see if we have that?
If it's still on record.
Yeah, it was.
I have to agree with Jim that I am not in favor of moving the police station to a new
No, not either.
location. I'm in favor of repairing the building as is. Primarily, as you mentioned, proximity to schools. In this day and age, we need the police close to the schools. You just never know. And I will note that the police presence down here by the tennis courts and the basketball courts have helped reduce and almost eliminate vandalism in that area. So that's super important because it's a highly used area by the public. I just wish there was more police presence at Norcross Point.
Go ahead.
Okay, so when we took the tour, I think I recall Chief Ferland mentioning how they were hoping to find a secondary location in the case that they lost power or some other emergency situation occurred. Maybe it would be worth it to seek out another location, not so much to be a primary, but to be a secondary, and then maybe for extra storage, because like a warehouse type of thing that will facilitate their needs, and then they still have that maintenance downtown, and then we can also seek out what that would look like too.
Yeah, so Shannon, when the chief was talking about that, he was talking about dispatch in particular. And they've already identified a space within the fire station so that they're gonna have a console there so that if something bad should happen with our dispatch center, it's a matter of taking the phone from there and plugging them in over the fire station. So, and then the other thing is, we actually have a really decent amount of storage space over there at the Anabesicook.
Yeah, so a lot of room.
Yeah, and in fact, we've all internally been talking about having like some sort of silent auction garage sale over there to get rid of some of the stuff that's in there, that's surplus stuff that hasn't been used in years and will never ever be used again. So, so we do have ample storage. That's one of the benefits of having those buildings over there. We do have ample storage.
So can I make a proposition, proposal? Linda wants to look at the old study, and I think that's worthwhile. I think that we have to have at least an estimate of the cost of a proper repair for the police station foundation and the front steps and all those things.
In the brick.
And grounding before we make any decisions. So I think that's probably next steps.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, so just kind of like consensus, there are next steps. I don't think we need to vote on that, what the schedule for just having a discussion.
Alright,
Okay, item number 153, consideration of ratifying departmental budget overages.
Yeah, so this is a three-part. So the first part is just ratifying the budget overages totaling $167,209.03. So, even with that amount of money, we still ended up the year $400,000 in the black. But there were some unanticipated, expenses, and mainly those were related to really large vacation payouts. And then also, buying out the contract of the prior town manager, then hiring an interim until I came on board.
Now, I have a question on the, accumulated time. Are we getting our hands on that? Are we setting policy where employees cannot carry over X amount of, above and beyond 4 weeks or whatever?
We had a policy, we just never enforced it.
We have a policy, it is now being practiced,
Thank you.
and.
That's always a good thing.
And at the next meeting, we'll have a vacation policy for your consideration.
Okay, all right.
But yes, we are, I've been working with our employment attorney to get a handle on that situation, so that we're not facing those large payouts in the future.
Okay, so at this point, we don't have a lot of options but to ratify this, so Chair will entertain a motion. In 153,
I guess I, go ahead.
no motion? Yeah.
I think it probably should be discussed.
I can make a motion on this, after that, a motion.
Okay, then I make a motion to move to ratify the fiscal year 2023 departmental budget overages totaling $167,209.03.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Go ahead, James.
So that motion was just based on the ratifying, where's that money? So you said that money's solely for the payout?
No, so,
Is that what's looking?
yeah,
Go ahead.
so,
Yeah.
Okay.
someone's got a microphone.
Mine's on.
Okay, so if you look at this page right here,
He's got it up on.
yeah, so you can see, the amounts that are in parentheses are the overages. So if you look down at the very bottom, we budgeted $100,000 for vacation and sick leave payouts. We budgeted $100,000, we spent $148,000. So there's $48,000 of it right there. If you go to the very top, you can see that the payout of the previous town manager and this does not include the vacation accrual, was nearly $32,000. And then one of the other larger ones is, down there at the bottom, nearly $45,000 for a miscalculation by the assessor in TIP. So,
Can you explain that?
so as part of the commitment, you've got to pull money from the general fund into the TIP fund, right? And so there's a mistake, I can't explain the mistake, but, because I wasn't here, but he only pulled in half of what should have gone from the general fund into the TIP fund. And thereby, the liability on the TIP fund was twice as much, liability on the general fund was twice as much as it should have been, or one half of what it should have been.
So it was an accounting error.
As an accountant. And then in public works, of the nearly $34,000, a lot of that was overtime related to plowing. but we also saw a pretty significant increase in traffic striping last year, and then we bought more gravel than we anticipated.
Okay, well, that explains a little bit of that, so thank you, but, I guess, thank God we got some overages, so we can pay for this, but where are we looking at for next year? Are we covering any of this stuff, or addressing any of this for this new coming up budget?
So I will tell you that we are, one of the other motions as part of this item that we are recommending is that we do keep $100,000 for payouts. Now, I think once we get a handle on ending those large payouts moving forward, I think that'll be a budget that we can very easily meet. The prior, just as a comparison, last year we spent $148,000. The year before that, it was $40,000. So you're always gonna have some of that,
Sure.
but you gotta control it.
So for the next meeting, you're gonna present something with the vacation, and the payouts, and that, and what they're allowed, and where that's gonna go.
Well,
Because I have some thoughts on that whole thing too, so I'd like that.
well, what I can tell you is that the policy in regards to how much a person can accrue is not changing. It's 280 hours.
Okay.
The difference is that we are no longer allowing anyone to accrue more than 280 hours.
Okay.
So in other words, you're capped, right? And this has nothing really to do with the vacation policy that I'll be presenting at the next meeting, but you're capped at 280 hours.
That's not including sick time though, either.
No, that's just vacation.
Right, and that doesn't include the holidays, so it's all that stuff's.
Yeah, and so, just remember, Jim, we're eating an elephant.
I get it,
And
I get it.
And the first bite is vacation, and then the next two bites will be sick leave, and then bereavement.
Vacation, yeah.
And Linda has some.
How much for sick leave are they allowed to accrue? I don't even know if I want the answer, but let's, I don't wanna know, but I'm really, it's not okay. And
Yeah.
what does the policy say, and what have they been accruing?
So again, so Linda, you're testing my memory right now as to what that figure is. It's more than 280, but I don't recall the exact figure right now, and I don't want to give you a wrong figure. I'll follow up with an email tomorrow to let you guys know, but it is more than 280. And again, we're gonna
Sick time?
Sick time, yes.
Yeah.
But what does the policy say? And I guess the question becomes is, if somebody accrues more than that, are we legally bound to reimburse them for that when the policy clearly states what they can and cannot accrue?
We are not legally bound. That's one of
Thank
the
you.
things I've been working with the attorney on, just to ensure that we're not creating a legal liability for us.
Yeah, because-
By adhering to the policy and thereby changing the practice, you know, and so now what we're doing is we're aligning the policy and the practice.
Send that money back over.
Have the people who had the excessive
Sorry, but-
overages been notified of this
Yeah,
change?
I had this conversation with Andrew. Basically, what's happening is that the people with huge amounts of accrued time are being given, what is it, about a year, Anthony, they have to use it up or.
It just depends upon the individual. So the answer to your question, Elizabeth, is yes.
Okay.
That we are working with everyone, and there's only 9 people in the organization that this applies to, but we're working with everyone on an individual basis to say, okay, we need to get you under 280. Here's a time frame by which you're gonna be allowed to use your excess vacation time. And for most people, it's just a matter of a couple of months. There are a couple of extreme examples. And so,
Acceptable.
but with the understanding that when you hit your deadline, you're at 280 hours, whether or not you've used enough to get under that figure or not. And then again, so no one will be allowed to accrue anything more than 280 hours until they use some of their hours, and then they can start accruing again.
Thank you, I just think it's important, the vacation's for people to take, so I think it's important that they do that.
I'm 100% with you, Jim. This is not just about reducing the town's legal liability.
Understood.
It's healthy for people to take vacations and get away from that
Exactly
work.
what I tell my same my
Yeah.
employees. And my concern is, and it sounds like you're going that route, is I'm really concerned about, and I've had this discussion, I think Bruce would agree with me. In the private sector, like, I work at the hospital, I think we're capped at 240, and that's
Yeah.
our sick time,
Yeah.
our vacation time,
Thank
and
you.
our holiday pay.
Thank you.
So when we tie all that stuff in and you talk about other companies, you know, they get 12 holidays, and that doesn't come out of their vacation time. And then they get the sick time on top of that. We have to account all, you know, the normal Joe has to accrue all that into
Thank you.
that PTO. So I just would really think we need to look at that as a whole. And I'm not trying to take away from our employees, because I want them to have vacation, I want them to have sick time. But there's other ways that, you know, we need to be fiscally responsible for our town and make it fair and equitable for everybody.
Okay. Okay, so I believe we have a motion and a second, for the ratification of $167.
Need a second?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Okay, are all in favor? Okay, let the record show all are in favor. Okay, number two, carrying forward $120,158 from fiscal year 2023 budget to the fiscal year 2024 budget for possible fluctuations in fuel prices. Can I get a motion on that one?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I guess it's just more of just the cost that's gone up. Is that what that increase is?
So it's just to account for, we don't know what's gonna happen with fuel costs moving forward. So again, on this spreadsheet, Jim, if you look at the second to last line, it's account number 1991. You see the use of carry forward.
Yep.
So this past year, we budgeted $230,000 to account for fuel costs because they were really crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then we spent $110,000. So what we're proposing is just to move that back, carry that full balance.
Just
forward.
banking it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, all in favor? Okay. Well, record, you in favor of it?
Yeah.
Okay, the record show all in favor. Okay, number three, appropriating $100,000 from the undesignated fund balance to pay out for payout of employees that have sick leave and vacation time at the end of their employment.
And again, this is just repeating the practice from last year, and we're committed to making sure we come under $100,000, not go over that by adhering to the policy.
All right, and may I have a motion?
I move to appropriate $100,000 from the undesignated fund balance for payout of employees' sick leave and vacation time at the end of their employment.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second, are all in favor, or are there any discussion? No, sorry, okay, all in favor. Sorry, folks. Evening is getting late.
Yes,
All
it
right,
is.
consideration of disbursement warrants.
Already signed them. So.
I move to approve the disbursement warrants as presented.
Second.
Okay, no, any discussion? Okay, all are in favor? The record show all are in favor. Okay, item 155, consideration of recommendations from the appointments committee.
To reappoint Richard Coleman to the Winthrop Utilities District Board of Trustees. It's a renewal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? The record show once again, all in favor. Okay, other business? Any public comment?
Yeah. Just a couple quick things I wanted to ask, I've spent years on the town council, never on the finance committee, so the finance committee reviews at month end I'm gonna forget the right term for it, the balance sheets, the payouts and stuff like that. During the budget season, can't we anticipate through looking at that stuff that there's gonna be excess money one way or the other, either excess spending or excess, not anticipated to be spent? I know. Well, let me just leave it there.
No.
To a certain extent, but we don't know what the exact figures are until the auditors have done their work. And in fact, that's gonna be they've done some preliminary work. They were here last week, but their real work will begin the week of September the 11th.
I mean, the finance committee reviews the warrants,
Yeah.
but as far as I'm concerned, we get presented a budget that the departments have put forward. We don't know what they're, throughout the year, what they're gonna spend their money on, what they don't. Or what they,
I don't think that's, I agree with you, that's right, but
right,
we should see a year
So-
to date that's looking like it's gonna be in excess.
but if they spend something last minute, we don't know that.
Well,
I mean, it's a timing issue, and even if we go and look at that stuff, there's no way of telling, in my opinion, what they're gonna be ending up of the year with, or what they're approaching the year with, because it's what they're spending their money on and how they're spending it.
So we could
And
ask
when
the
it's spent.
department heads during the budget season if they're going to spend all of that money. And if not, why? I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to us is what I feel like, although I do hear you're saying that
But so I agree with you, and I think I asked that question during the budget cycle, part of it, it was something similar to the fact of kind of, we should kind of know where we're landing. And I think Bernice told me, and you know, I'm not here to question her, but I think her comment was, sometimes things get billed out late. We get a bill from somebody that was supposed to bill us last month and they didn't bill us until this month. So it's what they budgeted, but it's depending on the company when they send us the bill. So sometimes that's way late, and that's why from month to month, we don't know exactly where we're gonna land.
I understand that. I just think it shouldn't be a surprise to us 2 months after the end of the year.
The only cumulative way that should really affect you is the last month, right? Like everything, like what you're saying, not billing till the following month, that'll show up in the following month. I think what she's saying is, can you look at all those months put together throughout the year? And when it comes down to crunch time, toward the end of the year, can you look at whether, just forecast whether the department's gonna be over or under? But
Well, I guess we would need to ask the department heads for an update.
Yeah.
X number of months
Budget
into
date.
it, because to me, getting, at the end of this, and we're ending up with a $700,000 deficit, surplus, there's something wrong there. I mean, in my opinion, why are we ending up with such a large
I think what
surplus?
she's saying, can you take that,
And I think we can, we need to ask the department heads, it's probably a good idea.
can you
Give
take
us an
that
update.
looking into the budget rather than looking at it after the budget's already set?
Yeah.
Question.
Okay, yeah, Bruce.
I think it's called a quarterly review. I mean,
Yeah.
in our business, we review our budget every quarter
Yep.
to see where we're at, whether we're on projection or off projection.
Yeah, and I could very well be mistaken about this, but don't you folks get like a monthly report of where the budget stands?
Well,
Yeah, but
we,
it's a
from a
percentage, it's a
departmental-
percentage.
Right.
Yeah.
And, but that is one way that you can sort of forecast, what you're doing.
that's one thing that I had actually written down here, It used to show up on the agendas. Where you can actually click on the link for
I think
expenditures.
maybe it's asking to report it
Yeah, so,
to the townspeople.
so actually, well, and yes, so we could post those reports online. So honestly, Roy, I said, in my opinion, the better way to do that was to send you folks the reports. If you have questions, then we'll bring Bernice in here, but I don't know that she necessarily needs to be here for a meeting in order to explain something, that's essentially a report. And so, but I think that's a good idea. For the sake of transparency, we can post those on the finance page of the website.
Or it used to be right on the agenda, the meeting agendas, at the monthly meetings agendas. It
Yeah,
used to be expenses and revenues and expenses. You click on it and you could see the different.
That's how I-
Sources of revenue.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting the same outcome, but just a different approach to get there.
Thank you on that. I have 2 other things that are just comments.
To PJ.
Yes, well, you gave us this opportunity.
You only get 3 minutes.
Okay. I just want to comment, I didn't do bring my notes. I had a concern about the revised town council rules, because I thought there was a way that there could be an emergency meeting called of the council without adequate public notice, and I'm concerned about that. I'll look, and I'll probably talk to Anthony about it.
You're mistaken about that.
It's in there.
I hope I'm mistaken about that.
You're mistaken.
Okay. And the other is that, so far, I've been around town for 23 years now. We've had accounting errors in the schools for town manager and now our assessor. How can we stop this? Just a comment. Short of my question.
Think that.
As long as humans are involved, there will be errors.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, well, we could put it to AI, but then we'd all.
Okay, if there are no further comments from the public. Okay, we'll be ready for the manager's report.
Okay, I'm gonna speed through this real quickly. On Wednesday night, we're having a planning board meeting. Jessica Cobb with KB Cog is going to be here to discuss with the planning board their thoughts on future land use. That's a very important chapter in the comprehensive plan. And I'm happy to report that we've got 11 of the 12 chapters done. And I talked with Jessica today, and she is fully confident that we are going to get this plan done within the next month and have it ready for voters' consideration on election day in November. Wednesday at 7 p.m. is the planning board meeting.
That was on the website.
So you folks know that I went to the Maine Town and City Managers Association Conference week before last. And some things that were really great is I sat in on a session about working with engineers and how they can help you with your capital improvement planning. And so Matt and I, next Monday, are going to have a discussion with some engineers from Haley Moore, just to find out what sort of service that they provide. I'd like to come up with a more formal capital improvement planning process than what we've had. I also attended a really great session on new council member orientation. So working with Deb Nichols, we're going to spice up the new council member orientation for whoever comes on board in January. And also there was a good session on revaluations, which was a timely topic for us. And I learned about this thing called the quality rating. And the closer you get to 20 with your quality rating, which is just some ratio, the more you're likely to be in need of a reval. So our quality rating year before last was 13, and last year it jumped to 18. And so we'll see what it is when we get to January this year. Also, it was great I spent a lot of time talking with the Monmouth and Reedfield town managers, and so those sort of connections I think are going to lead to some collaborations. On September the 25th, which is our second meeting in September, we're going to need to extend the core moratorium for another 6 months. So I just want to put that on y'all's radar, and we'll do that on September the 13th, which is 2 planning board meetings from now. The planning board will be working with the planning director from KB Cog on the court ordinance. So
Is that the beginning of it?
that's in the works. So he's done a lot of gathering up of ordinances and research, and so he's going to present that to the planning board, and he thinks they'll have that ordinance done in pretty short order, but we'll still want to extend the moratorium.
And
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, which is remotely possible. If we extend the moratorium for 6 months, can we pull it back or not?
Well, the moratorium would end the moment that you approve an ordinance.
Okay, because I really,
Or that a new
I
ordinance.
really
takes
can
effect.
see that go again another 6 months.
No, I think we're gonna get her done.
Great.
Our new planner, Don Emerson, starts on September the 11th. And on September the 15th, she and I are gonna attend some downtown planning training. So we're gonna get some training on some things that we hopefully will learn about, some tools that we can use in our village. Speaking of September the 11th, so far on the agenda right now, we talked about the vacation policy, but we will also be bringing you a purchasing policy for your consideration. So we're having a directors meeting on Wednesday, and I want to get some input from the directors before we sort of finalize.
Who has been working on the purchasing policy?
Who has been working on
Yeah,
it?
and had input on it,
Myself,
okay?
Deb Nichols, Bernice, and then Linda Filer, who was here because she processes a lot of the invoices. And so the last step is for us to get some input, I think, from our directors and see what they think. We are going to, I'm currently working right now on a banking RFP. So we've banked with Androscoggin Bank, but there have been some instances where we've been less than happy with their performance. Our contract has expired, so we're gonna put that out for bid and make people compete for our business, for a for business.
Last meeting, I discussed this in talking about purchasing policy, and it also incorporates getting rid of equipment. And I talked about the plow truck. Where are we at with that? Like I said, we're coming up into that season right now, that might be, I wanna get some value for it. I wanna get some value for it versus having it just sit, cause I know it's not out there moving. And where can we get that thing and put it up, post it up for bid, put a price on it and get this thing moving?
So you will recall that Matt Burnham has been away from work for the past week and a half. And so, this morning when he returned to work, one of the first things he did was come and we went over some things I'd been making a list about. That was on it.
Thank you.
He's great. He's good with, getting rid of the plow truck. So now we're gonna, enact the same procedure that we did in getting rid of that cruise control cruiser. And something I've already put on Deb's radar too is as soon as we get the purchasing policy done, then we need a policy for how we divest of surplus equipment.
That should be part of it. That should be one of the.
Well, I mean, that's not really a purchase. I think it's a separate thing, but it's related, but it's not the same.
Something about eating an elephant, isn't it? One bit at a time.
We're one bite.
Yeah, there we go.
Two more things. So I sent this to you previously, but, we are going to be, KV Cog got a service provider grant for the Community Resilience Program. And you guys will recall Stephen McDermott has been here before and talked about that. And so, the first step in our enrolling in that is to have is to do a self-evaluation. So that is something where it's for the internal players within our organization. So it'll be staff, council members, committee members. We invite them and have them do an evaluation. And so I'm wondering, just from y'all's standpoint, do you think that there's any time that's better than any other times for you guys to be engaged in that exercise? And we're talking about one evening.
I would say that I think I actually threw a note out there last time. We were talking about an off-time meeting. And I really would prefer Mondays, because what I do personally is I try not to book Monday nights, because if we have to move a meeting or something, the odds are that Monday's gonna be free. So if we can, assuming this is a night session.
Yeah.
We can stick to Mondays. It would make it easier for all of us.
Monday's fine for me.
Yeah. So we do have
But Monday in September, not necessarily the rest of this,
I'll go with that.
yeah.
So you said September, 'cause I think we have 5 Mondays in September, so maybe the last Monday, we'll see if we can.
I just have a procedural question. So on this community resilience self-evaluation, we're not getting together to answer this as a group, are we? Or are we getting together to discuss results of it? Because I think it would behoove us to have people do it individually and then come and discuss the consolidated report of what the response was.
Well, I think it's meant to be a discussion. In fact, the resilience coordinator for KV Cog has offered to come and participate in those exercises. But so the process is you do the self-evaluation, then you have a public workshop to discuss the results of that evaluation with the public. And at the same time, you can work on sort of whatever you think the community actions might be. The programming that you're looking to pursue with the grant money. And so some possibilities that I've already identified is, there's been talk about electric vehicle charging stations. That is something that the grant would cover. Converting to heat pumps in all of our facilities. That's something I'm very definitely interested in, because at that point we could get away from heating fuel, right? Mm-hmm. Plus it's cleaner. We could have an open space plan, which is something that the comprehensive plan is recommending, and that's something that this grant would help fund. So we can either get $50,000 if we go it alone, but if we can find some way to partner with another community, between the two communities, we can get $125,000. And luckily for us, one of the 5 participating communities in the KV Cog service area is Manchester. And so I chatted with the Manchester town manager last week, and we're going to get together and have on some sort of brainstorm about things that we think we might be able to to work on together, because if possible, we'd like to team up so we get more money.
I wonder, one of the things that we ran into on the first go round with Norcross was that there were quite more than a few monuments and statues, benches, memorable, you know, for family members and stuff. And I'm not gonna say that they were an obstacle, but they were an issue to work with. And so I wonder if we ought not, when you talk about open space, have a policy to deal with the placement of those kinds of things coming in, combined with our open space.
Yeah, we probably need that. A lady called me wanting to put another bench over there on Norcross Point.
Right.
I said, you need to really email me your request and I'll talk with the council about it. I have not actually received that email.
You know, and
But when we're talking about open space, I mean, essentially what we're talking about is conserving land. Is to find a way to ensure that the rural characteristic of our community remains for eons. So lastly, the last thing, I was cleaning off my desk and I came across the town charter. And so we got through the council rules. So I'm wondering if there's any appetite to form a committee. And typically when you're looking at reviewing and updating a charter, you do that with a citizen community that makes recommendations to the council. Is there any interest in that? Because the last time that was amended was 2007.
I would be interested to the extent that I would just not get paid as a counselor. I mean, I tried not to get paid before and they told me we had to amend the charter and that was a big deal. So that we could fix that.
Can you send us the copy of the charter?
Certainly can.
Can I ask a
It's on our website too.
Oh, it is, okay.
The new town planner is also got very strong skills in grant writing, correct?
If she doesn't, we're gonna make her strong.
Okay, all right. But I mean,
But she knows that is a critical part of the job. It's something that we expressly discussed in her interview.
Does she have the?
She does have grant writing experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and you know, she's a smart, capable person. And so I mean, part of that is just doing the research, finding what's available out there. And some of the best advice I ever got is, the answer is always no until you ask. So we're going to do a lot of asking.
Yeah, I think down the road, the concern is, you know, a year from now, we're gonna have spent $170,000 between the planner and the executive assistant. And the townspeople are gonna know what they got for that money.
Yep.
Okay, and we gotta have answers.
For the grant, we should be able to get some grants here.
Yeah, and we should see a pickup in code enforcement, you know, take some of Mark's load off.
Yep.
With administrative, so, you know, all I'm saying, and I suspect Bruce might have been thinking the same thing, is we're gonna have to have answers a year down the road for spending that kind of money.
Well, and again, we're gonna do lots of asking, but whether or not we get grants to a large extent is out of our control. I mean, all we can do is apply and ask, and there's no guarantee that we'll get grants.
there's no guarantee in anything except life and death, but I mean, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of was that we could consider some compensation for this individuals or individuals.
That's on the table.
It's what?
I think it's on the table.
Oh,
They're
okay.
looking at that.
Yeah, and I mean, in fact, when I contacted her about attending that training her first week, she said, yeah, let's go do it. And I'm hoping that, you know, that'll be a place where we'll learn about some opportunities.
I think even if these folks are saying is, if you show what they have presented to, what we've applied to, because, and if you don't apply to it, you don't get it, right? Or you don't have a shot at it. So just having the opportunity, this person doing that job doesn't reflect on her not doing a job if we don't get it. But if she's out there exploring the grants and applying for them, that's a positive thing that we can spend back to the town saying, we have tried and we'll continue to try.
We applied for 7 or 8 grants and we got one, okay, that's what we did, and we'll get better over time.
That's right.
And so I will also just say with the executive assistant, her first week on the job, she produced the first draft of your top priority, which was the purchasing policy. I mean, I think that position's already paying dividends.
And I also found out how small the world was.
I
walked in
think-
the town office the other day.
I think too, once the
We should be able to get them.
once the townspeople start seeing changes happening in the town that are positive, that are a direct result of having more code enforcement, people freed up to do their actual jobs instead of being an assistant to someone. I think that the more people see improvements, the more likely you are to see people accepting those positions.
And so getting back, I mentioned the comp plan a little earlier. You guys know that I serve as the chair of the comp plan committee in Belgrade. And we just got through doing an exhaustive analysis of what was accomplished in their plan, which was adopted in 2014. And an awful lot was done, and it was largely because the planning board spent an awful lot of time addressing recommendations to update ordinances for things like subdivisions, commercial development. And so the planner, and so we're gonna have an ace in the hole that Belgrade does not, and that we're gonna have a planner who's gonna be able to do that work and then present it to the planning board, and it's gonna make it a lot more efficient and effective. And so I just see that a lot of what we see in the comp plan is gonna be accomplished by having a planner on staff who can help the planning board make those ordinance changes to allow for controlled growth within the community.
And the compensation for the planner doesn't necessarily have to be direct through grants, it can be indirect through taking care of other stuff that's paid to them.
Yeah, I mean, and, she's well aware what the job description is, it's pretty wide ranging, so it encompasses all of that, including grants. Done?
I think a comment was made that the subdivision ordinance hasn't been touched in 30 years and needs work. And it would end up being considerably larger. And 9 months from now, when we say, what did the planner do? I don't want to be in a position of saying, apply for 2 grants and double the size of the subdivision. It's, I don't want to.
Well, brace yourself, because the subdivision ordinance is gonna grow exponentially, because the state regulations have grown exponentially since 1990.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with complying with the state, I just don't want to get carried away. Let's go, we got an ambulance, tour, if anyone's still up to it.
So when is that called, the end of the meeting, or do we?
No, we call that.
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah.
So we will move the venue of the meeting to the ambulance.
Move to adjourn.
No, not.
Yeah.
That's one little.
What's that?